We're here in the Zona del Silencio. Agent Ryan, present and accounted for.
Agent Mora, mostly here. I'm here. We're here. We've made it again.
Yeah, hello, Mora. We are back again for the first time with some unfinished business. We still have a lot to get to with Raël, and there was no way we could get that all in, especially after finding that cactus drink, which nice find there, Rhonda. Thank you for that.
Royo coming in again. Thanks, girls.
But yeah, you ready to get back into it? Man, that stuff was hard too. That whatever that cactus stuff was. So
I liked it. I have a propensity for the strong drink. I liked it. A little rough. Yeah, my voice was left a little bit scratchy and everything, and I would think that it would help a scratchy throat, but we'll see. I've actually I saved some of it, so in case I need it later.
Well, that's good, because I think they probably cleaned up after our mess last time. And well, we got to get back to the Raëlians. We got to finish off this Raëlian saga. But before that, we have to address, from the desk of the boss man, Issa, it's the notes. And we're going to switch it up again. Me first, all right, for once,
okay.
For again. All right, for Agent Ryan, in regards to your comments about Betty Dodson's worldwide masturbation campaign for the 2000 New Year's celebration and the Yes to Life seminar, Yes to Self-Love seminar, be aware. Be aware that Betty Dodson was an artist, author, and PhD sexologist and one of the principal voices for women's sexual pleasure and health for over 4 decades until her death on Halloween 2020.
Wow.
Weird note. It says, in 2011, Betty received the Public Service Award from SSSS, the Society for the Scientific Study of Sexuality, and the Masters and Johnson Award presented by S-STAR, the Society for Sex Therapy and Research. Betty was recently named one of the top 10 sexual revolutionaries by Cosmopolitan magazine and number 43 of the 100 most important people in sex by Playboy magazine. And her public charity, dedicated to creating and disseminating sex information and educational materials to prepare individuals to thrive in their future career and adult lives. She is also the inventor of Betty's Barbell, a vaginal exerciser that doubles as a dildo, designed by a woman sexologist. R.I.P. Betty Dodson.
Wow, it sounds like she did a lot of really good work.
Yeah, she sounds great. I didn't think I was being too harsh on her either. I'm just not on board for that New Year's thing. At least not at the year 2000.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not that we don't think that she did important stuff. It's just, that type of event in particular. I like to hang out with my family on New Year's, and I can't really see that combining well. So
no one wants it. Maybe 2030. I think the world might be ready in a few years, but 2000, there was no way. No, that wasn't happening. But
I still, there's something about the public element of it that I can't quite get behind.
Respect to Betty Dodson, though. I really didn't know all that great stuff about her. Betty's Barbell, she's got her own thing. That's kind of interesting.
That's very interesting. I've never heard of it.
I took a look. I've taken a look at it. Actually, it looks like a tire gauge tester almost. So it's like a metal thing, you know what I mean? Like a tire pressure tester. Yeah.
For sure. It's a barbell though, so you do wait. You know what? We don't need to linger on this topic.
Yeah, maybe one of our cases will be Betty Dodson. Hopefully not. All right, and another one here for Agent Mora and Ryan and Royo. Agents are to refrain from consuming the local plant life without attending the required Zona Flora workshop. Additional training will be available in July to review proper specimen collection techniques. Signed, ZD at headquarters.
We have to wait until July to take the course to be able to then we will be allowed to have some of this amazing cactus juice.
I'm glad you say some. And look, hey, this is your first note, girls. Welcome to the team. All right, that's cool.
Yeah. Yes, now you're going to be in the hot seat just as much as we are. But they're too cute. They're not going to get any punishment, so they're fine. They can do what they want.
I saw this before we got here, because this was posted to the Zona social media, and is clearly directed at us. And just keep this to our personal notes. You don't need to put us on blast. It's fine.
I just saw it a few minutes before we started, and I was like, shit. How did they... Well, maybe they don't know it's us. They do know that it's somebody on the Zona.
Yeah, would you leave a couple minutes back then? I don't know. But the class sounds fun anyway, and we need that info. If we want to make it out here, And I was hoping they would address our request for a jacuzzi with the thick blue liquid. They did not. There's no note about that. I get it. We both kind of pushed it with our respective budgets.
Oh, but check this out. We did get the short sleeves. I'm wearing the short sleeves anyway.
Yes, I have them as well. It's very it's cool. It reminds me almost like a Catholic school button-up brown shirt I have. It's just it's almost like a mailman shirt. I kind of like it.
Yeah, it does remind me of mailman shirt. I thought of like Boy Scouts too. But it's cute. I mean, look, I don't even care how cute it is. It could be ugly as hell, but I just need to keep cool out here.
We still got the cool logos and stuff and our IDs. I feel real official out here.
No, it looks pretty cool. It's not as nerdy as I thought it was going to look.
No, not at all.
But I'm just, I changed my mind about the shorts. I'll stick with the pants.
Oh, I've got the purple shirt. But one more thing, the zone advisory from our associate Jamie, unregistered zoneros have been spotted hiking near known humanoid encampments. If you spot these interlopers, please take initiative and escort them to a safer area, preferably outside of the zona entirely. Zoneros, it is summer and it is kind of opening up, and we got to stay sharp.
What's to stop them from just coming right back in after we escort them out? You know, hypothetically.
I mean, I don't know. We got to be ready for action. You ready for some action if it comes down to it? I see you got a new piece here. What does that thing do?
Yeah. Check this out. I mean, it's cool. It's a little bit, it's similar to my old one. It's just I need something that's going to feel as comfortable and like ready action, but it's a little bit faster.
Yeah, that kind of sounds a little
bit shinier.
It's a little intimidating. And okay, with that taken care of, we'll keep our eye out for these guys. These interlopers, these zoneros.
Hope I don't need to use this.
It just means tourists. I mean, these hikers or something.
Yeah, I mean, I figured they might not even know that they're in here, you know? They're probably just thinking that they're going camping somewhere. I'm not gonna be an asshole towards them. I just it's not safe.
I don't think it's good publicity for the zona either, because we know what goes on around here. So yeah, if we run into them, let's safely escort them out of here as quickly as possible. With that taken care of, being prepared now, it is time for today's case number 7.5, Raël and the Raëlian Movement 2. Mora, there is so much to Raël we could not get to in one session here. So I want to jog our own memories here. Like, I am still a little groggy from the Cactus Cat affair. We researched a man named Claude Vorlahan. He was a former pop star, turned race car driver, turned publisher, turned alien contactee, turned prophet and stepbrother Jesus, turned Raël.
Real maverick.
Leader of a UFO religion called Raëlism. That about sums it up.
I think so. I think you did a pretty good job summing it up. I guess to me, an important little bullet note in his history is just that he was raised by women and has an affinity for the feminine, and that he approaches everything with that kind of angle. I think it's influenced how he goes about his different careers, and like how he seems to always be striving for that kind of comfort. I don't know if it's just me.
I mean, no, it's a major tenet of everything he does. He's definitely very feminist positive and very femininity positive as well.
Yeah.
Just in the people he surrounds it in. But where we left off, Raëlism was just about to hit the big time as far as global media exposure goes in 2002, where Raël, he had reached a point where we had talked about his religion was starting to kind of spread out of France. He was now establishing himself in Africa, Japan, Canada, many other countries. But in 2002, he was about to go mainstream because on December 27th, 2002, a French chemist and Raëlian religious leader named Brigitte Bossier, who's also the chief executive of a company called Clonaid, announced to the world that the Raëlian company Clonaid had successfully cloned the first human being, a female baby named Eve. Whoa. Human clones, Mora.
Yeah, that's a huge, huge jump. I mean, the last thing that we had heard about cloning was Dolly the sheep, which I know that's not the same as Royo. Royo's organic, which they know that they're not going to be considered a clone. Yeah, see? We see you. We see you. It's huge.
It is shocking news that this would come. And I also want to mention this same year as Attack of the Clones. But talking about clones is very on brand for Raël, because remember, the afterlife in Raëlism is just being cloned and having your memory implanted into that fresh body. And how could such a thing not only be possible, but pulled off successfully by the Raëlians?
I will say that it is so outlandish. I don't know. The idea to me originally, like when I was younger, I suppose would make perfect sense. Like, why wouldn't you be able to? But then I remember reading this article a few years back. This was, oh my God, maybe almost a decade back now, about a guy who was terminally ill and kind of signed himself up to have, an experimental head transplant, basically, where his brain or something, I think it was just his brain, was going to be transferred to the body of a living person, but they were saying that wouldn't be like, there would be some kind of huge like psychotic break from the mind rejecting the entire body, and that he would be trapped in like an insanity that would be worse than hell if he survived.
It's a movie, Body Parts, I think, too.
Yeah, it's just it's a crazy concept when you think about moving your entire consciousness into a different body, even if it's a clone of your own body.
One step at a time. They're not at the consciousness part yet, but this is a big half of it. They're claiming that they have the first cloned baby, Eve. But how are they pulling this off? And to answer that, we're going to go back to 1997 when what you talked about, Dolly the sheep, made major headlines after Scottish scientists, after 277 failed attempts, cloned a sheep. And it was huge news. This is when cloning was on the topic of the news constantly and ethically debated, and every government in the world had to make a stance on cloning, like if you would allow it or not.
I think it's fine. I don't see anything ethically wrong with cloning in itself. It's just like, once we get into this idea of eternity, and that's where things get dicey. But
this is perfect. You got the clone, you've got Dolly, and she's at the forefront of all scientific and medical research. And Raël, being all about cloning, in March of that same year, a month after Dolly happens, Raël held a press conference in Las Vegas where he announced the formation of some kind of corporate entity called Valiant Ventures Limited. And this was going to act as an overseer for a bunch of different individual companies that would all be involved in cloning. You want to hear about some of these great companies that came out of Valiant Ventures?
Oh, yes, please.
Well, first off, you have Ovulade, and that's your one-stop shop for unfertilized human ova. And that is all they deal in, is that.
Wow. I guess it makes sense with there being sperm banks that there would be egg banks as well.
You're going to need them in this age of modern cloning. He had another company called Insure-A-Clone, and their job was to indefinitely bank your genetic material so you could just be cloned later. So this is, just a little insurance policy on at least your body.
It would give you the peace of mind because there's no way to verify if it would end up working or not.
At least I know my body will be walking around at some point. I'll be long gone.
With some other idiot's brain inside of me. That's great.
Or just me idiot, but it'll just be a different me idiot. And then the big one that would be headed by noted Raëlian chemist Brigitte Bossier, Clonaid, which was created on June 9th, 1997, and it promised it had the technology to create a clone of you or your loved one after death. Or even now, I assume they could probably clone you at any time.
I wouldn't want that to happen now. I think that's the idea, is having that security of knowing that you can continue kind of life as yourself later on, maybe, in a younger body. But to have both of you around at about the same time, that's your clone's gonna want to kill you or something.
Yeah, how does it? What if you like clone your wife and it's an evil clone of your wife, and then she goes and clones you and makes it,
Or does she get okay? So this is where it gets ethically weird. It's like, would you get jealous of yourself if your mate was attracted to the clone version of you? And I guess that's a question that people can answer if they're identical twins. No,
because the twins both have rights. I don't think clones have any rights. You can do whatever you want with it. You bought this thing.
Well, it's a human being, though. So then it sounds like human trafficking. If they don't have rights, they're human.
Good thing it's just the Raëlians, and they're nice guys. They're not known for their human trafficking.
They're good guys.
But this person heading up Clonaid, man, Brigitte Bossier, man, she's a fascinating character. She is a native French woman. She studied chemistry in France and the U.S. She went to the University of Dijon and the University of Houston.
Wow.
That's not too far from us in the desert here. And earning 2 PhDs. And from 1984 to 1997, she lived near Paris and worked as a research chemist and a sales manager for Air Liquide. She embraced Raëlism in 1992 after going through a very bitter divorce. And she quickly made her way up the ranks of Raëlism. She was very ambitious, super smart. She's got these multiple degrees from Dijon and Houston. And she's also feeling very sexually liberated and desired as joining this Raëlian movement. She literally rebounded into the Raëlian inner circle.
That's the biggest rebound you can take, I think, is joining this movement that's so embracing the freedom of it, and you're literally just recently free from the bonds of like what I assumed to be was an unhappy marriage. Like, that's got to be the best feeling ever. You're like, fuck that, I'm doing all of this now.
Yeah, I mean, the Raëlians are kind of known as a love cult, as we'll talk about a little more. It's very, we've mentioned there's a completely open sexuality and everything as far as Raëlism goes.
Everything goes as long as it's consensual.
So she makes this announcement, and then she loses her position with Air Liquide, but that's okay. Now she can clone a lot. There was even another company, the one more. There's not a lot about there, but they did have a company called Clone a Pet.
Oh, see, I can see that easily, like being viable. People would not have so many ethical qualms about something like that because it's quote unquote just a pet, but it's something where the cloned animal. You would hope like, oh, they're going to remember me and this is going to be awesome. And
but see, that's not a Raëlian priority. Raëlian priority is figuring out, becoming the space scientists ourselves and figuring out the cloning and the transferring of your brain and living forever.
So, and then once we do that, then the Elohim will finally hang out with us and let them sit with them at lunchtime.
It'll happen. It could happen sometime.
Someday, we can hope.
So yeah, this big announcement, 1997, you've got Clonaid, Clonoped, Ovulium, and the Insura clone. This is all part of this thing called Valiant Ventures, which is found out it's not anything more than a P.O. box in the Bahamas. It's like a shell company. But for the low price, though, of $200,000, Mora, you could purchase the full clone package from Clonaid.
Oh, that's not very much.
Yeah, a lot of people showed interest, too. Like, they say that about 250 people reached out to purchase the cloning service. And these potential customers included parents of dead children, same-sex couples, rich weirdos who wanted to live forever, that had a lot of money. Yes.
That'd be me, yeah.
And a lot more, I'm sure. And even though they were getting all this interest, there isn't much that Clonaid and the Raëlians can do. They've made this press. This company, like I said, it's just like a LTD, a limited company that Raël bought in the Bahamas. But because these people don't know that the Raëlians don't really have anything to work with, there's no lab, there's no infrastructure, there's just this idea and a promise. But the Raëlians kept with it. In the year 2000, they found a customer that might actually make this happen. A very well-off couple who insisted on remaining anonymous. They came across the Clonaid website after the passing of their 10-month-old son, and they were very keen, Mora, on bringing him back by any means necessary. And they agreed to give the Raëlians $500,000 to set up a new company called Bioserve, just for the purpose of cloning their son.
Wow.
And others, eventually. They wanted to be at the ground floor of this. And they also agreed, because they had enough money that they got in the suit from the loss of their son. They agreed that they would also sue any regulatory groups that might come and shut this down. It's a good find.
Wow. They can sue. Okay. I guess when you have money like that, you can just throw your weight around and people will believe you. How can they sue somebody who tries to stop them if it's going against any kind of like safety regulations?
This is the Wild West of cloning, and you've got the Raëlians coming forward with their great chemist, and you'd think now they'd be set, right? You just take the money, you stay quiet, you get the work done, right? You've got all this.
Yeah, you do the work.
You can actually do the work. No. Instead, Brigitte Bossier, she went into a public relations blitz to try and generate even more money. She started talking about all these willing candidates she had lined up, and she really, really overreached because she started hinting that Clonaid or Bioserve, whatever they're called now, she started hinting that they had a secret cloning lab in the U.S. that employed a full-time geneticist, biochemist, and obstetrician. So she was laying some really serious claims out there once she got this money, and thought that, this is going to happen.
Yeah, no kidding. If they knew that they didn't have anything, I don't understand what goes through these people's heads who know that there's going to be a point where people realize they're not getting anything for the money that they put in.
Raëlians are pretty global, and it's kind of obvious too when you see them. They've definitely got strongholds in different countries. They did have quote unquote labs.
Yeah.
They could have potentially had in Africa, Japan, and France. Name any country.
Yeah, and they'll name the country of Africa.
That's where they are. That's
It's
your
good
favorite
when you
one.
have a bunch of. No, it's not a country.
I know,
but I will say it's smart that they spread out like that. That's the thing that they knew what they were doing, that they would be able, they have different bases that they can kind of like hide between, because initially I didn't think that this group was really like malevolent, or they didn't have any kind of like designs that were going to hurt people, but this was the point where I'm at.
It was like
I'm at crossroads.
a weird, like, I don't know, everything came together. The fact that cloning comes in the forefront. Raël is at the height of his powers. He's got his race car energy back in him from the few years he was doing racing and stuff.
He's going fast.
And cloning's there, and he can just get up in public and do this. And but her going out and hinting that there was a lab in the U.S., that turned out to be a really bad idea, because that got him on the radar of the Food and Drug Administration, who immediately came after them with notices to comply with the regulations, file appropriate new drug permits.
And you can't sue the FDA?
And no, they just flat out refused to do anything. They said the FDA has no authority over Elohim and his plan, all right? You are not touching us. And it kind of turns out, because of ignoring the FDA, that Bossier was forced to appear in front of Congress, which was holding a hearing on cloning ethics. And she appears on the one condition that Raël also gets to come and testify on cloning. And he did. And they stood their ground that cloning was just an issue of individual liberty. And even Raël stated that, quote, "Thankfully, nothing can stop science." And
he's not wrong.
I don't think the government really liked that.
I don't think they liked it. They don't like being like shown up. Nobody does. But I mean, like I said, the idea of it, I'm fine with. I just don't like the idea of them taking people's monies and not actually doing anything with it. I think that, they were well-intentioned.
I think they really thought they could pull it off, too. I think if they had enough money, they had Brigitte Bossier and her multiple... Maybe Raël
They thought they really could do it. So you believe they weren't really trying to trick people. They just ended up not.
They just
succeeding.
Well, we don't know. We don't know. They could have maybe they realized going public was stupid. We should just be quiet and do this. We can pull this off anyway. We're quiet about a lot of things we do, I'm sure.
Sure. Yeah. Why not? So, I mean, they're still working on it, or no?
So this is when he has to appear in front of Congress. And this generates like a ton of publicity for Raël. I'm sure you can imagine. He's on C-SPAN, he's on the news, but it also backfired on the Raëlians, because with Bridget being on the news, a man in the town of Nitro, West Virginia, saw her and recognized her as the same woman he was renting an old high school gymnasium to. What? So this guy drops a dime. He calls the FDA, who raids the old gym, and they find this Raëlian unlicensed secret biolab.
Holy crap.
And they shut it down in a gym in West Virginia.
You said this town was called Nitro?
Nitro, West Virginia.
That's incredible.
We will be in West Virginia this year for Mothman. I would like to see if we can find this old lab gym.
Yeah. I've never heard of that town. What a great place to try to start a cloning lab, though, I suppose, out of an old high school gym. Good job to her, except that she got caught. That's amazing that guy put them together and was like, wait, I know this lady.
That's the crazy lady from the gym. And to call it a lab was a real stretch. It had some microscopes, a computer, and a refrigerator.
Well, that's a lab to me.
So people assume that it was set up to look like a real lab so they could fool any prospective clients who maybe they want to be wowed with Raël's high-tech cloning lab. And they're like, yeah, you got to check out this facility we have. Imagine being shown this old gym. I don't know what you're there cloning. Maybe you know.
I was going to say, I mean, look at our research lab, Ryan, is not that official looking, but at least you can tell there's nothing else untoward going on. There's papers, there's a filing cabinet, there's computers, no microscopes, but we don't need microscopes. But what do you need an entire gym for? There's just, some computers.
Where are you going to put all the clone tubes when you have all your... Because you have to fill this gym with clones at some point. I mean, I'm assuming this is a clone lab.
Yeah, you fill the entire gym. That's what all the bleachers are for. Like, there's a bunch of seating. So I guess they have room for that.
You have to think stuff eventually, if you're going to put all this cloning stuff in here, there's going to be a massive, power needed to power this thing. It's not going to look like a gym anymore.
Yeah, they need a couple of vending machines. How are they going to feed these clones? And they're going to need more than just like the bathrooms that are down the hall. You're not renting out the whole high school.
And this is all coming off the dime of their anonymous donor. But through the raid, they were able to identify this anonymous mega donor. It was West Virginia State Legislature Mark Allen Hunt and his wife, who, once they were found out, they dropped out of the cloning game altogether. And whatever funding they gave to Raël, all was taken aback. I don't think they lost too much money off of this.
Oh, well, that's pretty fortunate that they actually got some money back. Or I'm assuming not all of it.
Probably a couple months of gym rent were taken out of it. And probably, maybe a few meals.
Yeah. But at least they wised up and got out instead of losing everything.
But this did not deter the Raëlians, though, because cloning is life. It's the future. And they were able to find other wealthy investors. And this is going to lead us to that 2002 announcement that at 11:55 p.m. on Christmas Day 2002, right under the Messiah wire, baby Eve the clone was born to a 31-year-old Jewish woman whose husband was sterile.
Whoa. Okay, I didn't realize that was part of the equation. So this is like a kind of, I was going to say a reverse, Mary Immaculate Conception thing, where she didn't have sex and she just wound up pregnant. But in this case, wouldn't you definitely?
I mean, it's definitely, yeah. If they were planning this, hey, bravo, to if you can clone it and date it, get that perfect timing of it.
I guess you could be doing the whole, what's the term for it, where it's just if he was completely sterile and couldn't produce any sperm, did she go to a
No, this is a clone. She carried a clone baby, and this was the first. This is the first clone born on Christmas. Yeah, this is all the Messiah stuff is lining up for this. But other than this announcement itself and its great facts, the Clonade had no evidence to support any of the claims that this baby Eve existed at all. They just said, take our word. Totally have a clone, okay? It was born on Christmas, and its name is Eve.
Just believe us. Of course it was born on Christmas. It's got a biblical name.
People took this really seriously, though, because this was big news. Like, when Dolly the sheep happened, I guess people weren't, people probably were pretty shocked. Go, whoa, they actually cloned something? And you can grab that headline saying, guess what? First human clone.
Yeah.
And one person who took a lot of interest in this was Broward County Circuit Court Attorney Bernard Siegel, who had concern for the clone baby and felt that she needed to be put under the care of a court-appointed guardian because this baby technically has no parents. It is a clone. It is not the child of this person who facilitated its birth.
That's an interesting concept. That's something that's never come up with. There's no legal precedence for cloning and biological parents, but if it came out of somebody.
I don't know. Bernard Siegel said, nope, it's a clone. And he wanted to make sure that someone was put in charge of it. He felt that no one was going to care for this child properly, that it wouldn't have the affection of a parent, it being a clone. I would assume, though, that the parents wanted this kid. That's why they're doing this. But
yeah, that's like assuming that an adoptive parent couldn't love the child they adopted. That's completely false, I think.
This is a lot more work than that. This is like technology that has never been done before. This is earth-shattering.
But it's like, I'm just saying there's definitely a child would be cared for regardless if it was a clone. There are people who would love the child. Yeah, they can't just say we need a court-appointed guardian because no one could possibly love this horrible thing that's a clone and not a person. Like,
maybe Bernard Siegel saw the Raëlians. He's like, no.
Yeah, he just didn't like what was up, like where that child was. But like, imagine that. Imagine being a couple that could not, physically, naturally produce a child of their own, and so they adopt. And that to assume that they couldn't love that kid, or if they managed to then clone, like using previous DNA from like their own ancestors or whatever, like even just a couple generations back, that if that clone was made that way, to say that would be unlovable is insane.
Yeah, maybe he's worried about the no clone laws thing either. Clones got no laws, they got no souls, no one wants to take care of them, but Bernard's going to figure it out. So yes, he puts this out to him, but Clonade responds by stating that Eve and her parents had left the U.S. and that the court had no right to ask them to do anything in any country, and they just, he had to go. But the case was heard before the court, and another person who was very involved with Clonade, there's this guy named Thomas Koenzig, and he had to testify on behalf of Clonade in this Broward County court. And Koenig's job with the Raëlians, he was just the webmaster for all cloning-related websites that all of them they had. But his official title was the vice president of Clonaid. But he was pretty much the webmaster of this company that didn't exist. He would send contacts and emails to Brigitte. And that was kind of the extent of being the vice president of Clonaid at the time.
Sounds easy.
Well, what else was easy was winning this case because that's what they did. And and I found a weird little tidbit here. This case of cloning in Florida and getting rights for baby Eve, the judge of this was Judge John Frusciante, Sr., the father of Red Hot Chili Peppers guitarist
Yeah, I was gonna say,
John
that name
Frusciante.
sounds very familiar. That's incredible. I did not know he had a father in such a high position of power.
Ruling over such amazing cases as the rights of baby Eve. Yeah, a weird side note for sure. And so John Sr. ruled that from what they could assess, baby Eve, if she was real, was now in Israel, and this court could do nothing if that is the story. So,
No, I mean, it's true. But yeah, do we actually believe that baby Eve existed in the first place? Or where do you stand on that, Agent Ryan?
you know, if they did, well, no, I don't think they pulled it off. Let's put it, I'll just go ahead and say that. I'll say I don't think they pulled it off, but I think if they did, maybe she's still out there. I think she would be about, 20 now?
Oh, goodness, yeah? You said it was 2002?
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 years old.
Yeah, could be out there in hiding. Any 20-year-olds.
If you're out there, call us.
Yeah, give us a call.
Send us an
or
email.
do one of those, DNA tests or something. If it comes back just you.
Oh, do that. It's just you.
But in the following months, though, the Eve is not the only clone. Because cloning would come out and they would announce the creation of up to 13 more clone babies. Now there is 13 clones. Just over a few months, they're just like, they kept announcing more and more clones are coming. But after about a year, it kind of ended. And then another year came and went. No new clones get announced. It's just been 13 clones. And the cloning claims of Raël kind of just stopped after that. Baby Eve kind of got away scot-free in this. They got, a lot of exposure. What do you think? Do you think they took this operation underground, or was it never there to begin with?
I think that maybe they got close. To me, it seems like the timing of it being, she was born on December 25th and her name is Eve. It's a little bit too constructed.
They overreached a little.
Yeah. They tried too hard a little bit. It was not believable. If it happened on, like, say, January 4th, like something more kind of random. Yeah, Flag Day. Was that June 14th, right? I don't know.
You're a great one.
It just reeks of being contrived is all. And I don't think that they're wrong for like their mission for what they wanted to achieve. And like you said before, I think that they really thought that they could do it, but they probably were running out of funding at some point and had to kind of pull this Hail Mary, no pun intended, of a play here and try to convince the people that what they have is legitimate and worth the investment money. But it does sound pretty sketchy.
It's worth it to them, too, because this really is what they believe. It's their tenets. And unfortunately, the cloning is only half of it anyway. The memory transfer, that seems way harder to do.
Yeah, that sounds very just pure science fiction.
Just going to be there with a bunch of clones that can't do anything. You have to be maybe working on both. Maybe you get the memory thing done first, the transfer, and then work on the clone. If you can get that far.
Yeah, if you can transplant like a pet's memory into a new cloned pet.
Yeah.
That seems a little bit easier. It's less complicated than an entire human body, which I know mammals are highly complex organisms, but don't you want to start with just maybe we should keep focusing on the sheep first?
Yeah.
Get the kinks worked out.
There's not a lot of human volunteers you're going to get unless you got a lot of people who just like, I just don't want to remember anything. Just take it all.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that now more than ever, I think there are more people at that point who are just like fed up and actually would. So, I mean, like back in 2002, the economy was still doing great. Yes, 9/11 had happened, but like here in America, I don't think there would be as many people who would volunteer for something like this.
No, people would want to live forever at that point still,
Yeah, now I think a lot of people are like, dude, I didn't even sign up to be born. Like, this blows.
And Raël's so 70s. He's all about just wants to clone that body, get that brain in there. It's all just practices to get him to live forever. He's got to, get all these companies set up, get it all perfect, just right.
Oh, you know what this reminds me of? Because I just had a thought right now where it's like, with him in particular, since he said he was not very athletic and was not, popular with ladies when he was younger, but he figured out later on, oh, if I'm a musician, I can get chicks. But why wouldn't you then, if you had the ability to transfer your memory into another body,
he's got like Arnold's body,
a better body? Yeah. And what's that movie with I just watched it pretty recently. It was ridiculous. It's where they basically were picking off actual athletes so that old wealthy people would then be able to put their consciousness into these young fit bodies that had nothing to do with them.
Yeah, but Raël's nice. He'll just create a fit body for himself.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, no, I'll just use future slave versions of myself.
He'd make a race car body for himself or something. If they're messing around that much.
And actually, that was the main character in the movie that was being chosen, was a race car driver.
I think Raël wrote this movie that you saw. I'll have to figure out what this is.
It might be.
But yeah, to close it out there, there's a great quote from Raël himself about the Clone Wars. Quote, "Clonade worked perfectly. First of all, for a minimal investment of $3,000 in U.S. funds, it got us media coverage worth over $15 million. I am still laughing. I have returned to the helm as spiritual leader of the Raëlian Movement and have no more responsibility within the Clonade project."
Oh, okay. So he saw himself out.
He saw himself out, and he got a lot for just making that company for $3,000. It does sound like that is about all he invested, and everything else was other people coming to him.
He's very good at making money. He's very good at just having wealth directed towards him without actually doing any, he's not delivering any goods.
He gives hope, I think. I guess he gives people hope, and
I'll say it's a service more than a goods kind of thing, where he's developed this kind of thing where people are willingly agreeing to this transaction of, yeah, I'll give you money because you've improved my life.
He's like, yeah, we're all just making love and having our bodies live forever and ever. It sounds fun, right?
It sounds awesome. Yeah, right.
But at this time, though, this was the peak of Raëlian popularity, this whole time of cloning. They got all this publicity, but when they're not able to provide any proof, a lot of newbies started losing interest. I'm sure some stayed. A lot of people had signed up. But Mora, we learned that the Raëlians, they're still going semi-strong, at least Raël and his inner circle.
Yeah.
Which we were able to learn a lot about because of a documentary by Vice TV called The Prophet and the Space Aliens. I know you have some information from that you want to share, yes?
Yeah, it was interesting to me, when I was we were talking before about how they've spread out into multiple bases around the world, and how, so he's, like you had mentioned, he's got really good strongholds in Canada and Japan and throughout Africa. I can't remember exactly how many countries he does it, but he's not even actually showing up, first of all, which, it's understandable. He's mostly showing up through video, and I guess FaceTiming with his followers there. But it actually was really important work that he was doing out there too. It's almost like he tailors the mission to the geographical location that he's at to best help the people. And it was in this that I actually realized how much of a, I guess, philanthropist he really is. He really is doing good. The ones in Africa really, really flocked towards this because it was not Christianity, basically, or it wasn't any one of these religions that is very heavy-handed and forces people to, do away with all of your previous beliefs. This is now what you believe. This is who you're going to worship now. It was very much encouraging them to actually go back to their roots, learn about not just learn about, but embrace, who they are and not change who they are, and to know that they're accepted in the Raëlian movement. That it was just very welcoming, and I think that's what mostly resonated with the people that it was so successul.
Yeah, I think it's one thing to research all the history of Raëlians and their beliefs and things, but to see them actually as a functioning religion, because in this film, this by Yoav Shamir, this thing started so strange because this guy, it almost felt like he got tricked into doing a documentary on the Raëlians. He is called out to them. He is honored as a friend of the Raëlians and sent to an award ceremony that it turns out is just for him. And then you get to see how this actual religion and following of Raëlism is so strong. And what you were talking about in Africa, that's a Raëlian village. It's called Elohika, where, he does Skype church. It's great. And that's the best part is that thinking of, there's a lot of Muslim religion and Christianity all through, and he was the only one that came in and told them, hey, you know what? You can go back to your older practices. And he liberated them sexually too, which is also a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge thing. Unfortunately, as we all know, there are a lot of groups and villages still that practice female genital mutilation when on baby girls, similar to, they call it female circumcision. I'm sure we're all aware of what it is. And but the amazing part is that it is actually able to be restored. And so he, and was it Brigitte also who was heading this thing with the pleasure hospital?
Yeah, she was. This was probably from about 2017, 2018, and yeah, the same Brigitte recent, yeah, from the Clonade and all that other stuff is still very high in the Raëlians, and she is out there helping these young African girls who have been circumcised to regain feeling. Like the whole, there's a huge sexual liberation and section. We all talked last week about the condomobile, of course, and other things like that.
different type of sexual liberation there. One of them being, hey, young people, it's okay to, have fun and experiment, but be safe about it. And then you have this whole movement, which is restoring literally a part of a person's body, which is, greatly connected to the soul. And that's incredible. I did not know literally that this was even possible. And I mean, women who are, even much older, who just, have lived their entire lives not knowing what that sensation is, and have that restored, and they're just like, oh my God, like I didn't know life was this cool. Like it's a big freaking deal to take that away from somebody.
It was. I mean, if you think all the things that religions take up, I mean, yes, some do a lot of good work, but such specific good work that does involve sexuality and is helping people out in this village here. There's also a great way they raise money for this. They had a thing called the Clit Box, and this was publicized by people online, and I think it became a big thing in some countries. And what it was a little box you kept next to your bed, and anytime you receive pleasure or give someone pleasure, you put some money in there for someone who can't, and that money was all to fund these Raëlian clinics that would restore, female genitals. It was great, but it got shut down by Catholics.
Unfortunately. Yeah, you would think like, mind your own business, first of all. If somebody wants to sign up for this procedure and everything, but they did it under the guise of like, well, you can't be this like nonprofit or whatever, or you can't do this unless you're, I don't know. It wasn't like an accredited hospital or something like that. But they found some kind of technical loophole to shut them down. Unfortunately, after only 25 women got to have this procedure done, and it's really sad. Even kind of weep for other women who are like, it's just not fair. Why wouldn't you just let somebody? Obviously, nobody got hurt in the process of undergoing these surgeries. It only benefited people. There were no real risks involved. I'm sure that this is not a kind of like life-threatening operation, so.
No, it was a bummer to see that they put so much work into that and going for that cause, and it got shut down so quickly.
At least they got to help who they did get to help.
But what was really fascinating, though, was seeing this African village, this Raëlian village, this strong Raëlian following he had there. It was because he is Skyping church into them, and they love it. Everyone loves Raël. He is very charismatic, and they sing songs. But he also has a sect of women there that are called the Angels. And these are certain young women who their purpose is to be ready and to be very fit and beautiful to greet the Elohim. And they all wear different feathers and flowers that signify different statuses of what level angel they are, how close they can be the Elohim.
What they're willing to do.
It was kind of an identifier, but there was another identifier in this. And they're very much, this is the Raëlian little village here is very sexually liberated, but they have it down to a science so much. They have an armband system for everybody where a different color armband means a certain sexual status. Like maybe red means, I can go with multiple partners, green, I'm married, and all these different ones. And my favorite was they asked one guy and they're like, what do you have? And he's like, white. He's like, what does that mean? He's like, nothing. I don't want anything. Just everyone leave me alone.
He's asexual. Yeah. Which, I mean, that's also, I find that really refreshing to not just like literally kind of wear your heart on your sleeve, but that everybody will accept it and just kind of automatically know. And because obviously you don't have to label yourself, but it does take a lot of guesswork out. Like I think one guy told his experience of like, well, I like women. And there have been times where I pursue a woman only to find out that they they also like only women, and well, I wasted a few days, and it saves some time, it saves some embarrassment, I'm sure.
It's very pragmatic.
Yeah, it's a very like efficient seeming system. And again, if you don't want to wear any armbands, you don't have to. But it's kind of a cool system.
It is, even though it didn't seem like there was that many people. Maybe there's a lot of people participating that we just didn't see. But you'd think you'd know everyone at one point that's doing it. But maybe not. There were a lot of people.
But if the system catches on elsewhere, and just spreads outside of Raëlian culture, or just people, because people kind of do, just by means of their like certain tattoos or their profile picture type thing. If there's like certain colors, it does kind of represent and give you a little tip off. It's people choosing to express themselves.
That's true.
Is what it is.
Feeling open enough to do it. Yeah, not being repressed in any way. It was neat. And yeah, not only was it great seeing Raël holding church over Skype, but to see him in his home base where he was living at the time in Okinawa, Japan, with Raël's inner circle. And I'm going to go through the inner circle. So in Raël's inner circle, we have Sophie, the ballet dancer, who married Raël when she was 16.
Yikes.
You have Takahide, who was a Japanese follower who bought Raël a very beautiful beachfront home in Okinawa.
That is incredible. You better keep him in your inner circle.
Yeah, he hangs out there. Then you have Hani, and that is Raël's assistant and back rubber, who is constantly at Raël's side. And you have Color, the philosopher and a dancer with very exotic dancing ways that we've seen.
Oh, yes.
That they show off in this. And the newest member of his inner circle, a 26-year-old singer and musician from China named Lotus.
Yeah, she certainly sings a lot.
Are you noticing a trend with the inner circle of the Raëlian movement, or as far as Raël himself?
It's practically a Harlem, which, that may have a negative connotation to some people, but if they're all fully willing participants, cool. He likes to surround himself with like beauty and art and that kind of thing, which I get it, He's a real hedonist and it's great.
And it's one of those things that the Raëlians do a lot of good things, and their tenets are good. And there are moments where I, researching this, I'm like, wow, Raëlians sound great. I would love to sign up. Then you realize, kind of as a guy, like, maybe not so much. I don't know. It seems... Yeah,
it seems that mostly he benefits from this kind of setup, and then the women, but other dudes, not so much, maybe.
There's a few some of the guys you see though, because there are lots of scenes of Raël, playing guitar with Mass, and there's never a frown anywhere near this guy. Everywhere he goes, he seems, by his inner circle, he is just completely adored.
Yeah, it's definitely not just illegal to not smile when he's in your vicinity. I think that he really does inspire people, and like other people have said before, there's no sense of being stuck there or trapped and like no one's letting you leave. You have full liberation at all times in all aspects of your life, except I guess the fact that they really, I don't know if it's like you get kicked out for it, but they definitely frown on, alcohol and smoking and stuff like that. Like you're not really supposed to do anything as far as that goes, but again, if you don't like it, they let you off.
This is one letdown of Raëlism. Yeah, maybe they are just like almost like the same kind of ethics as like a nudist colony, where they're probably not going too crazy. They just want to hang out and be naked. And then the Raëlians kind of just want to be openly liberated sexually, and they don't really mind that their leader.
No, yeah. Doesn't mean they're like constantly having orgies or anything like that. It's just that if they wanted to.
If they wanted to, that would be totally fine.
They wouldn't be judged. Yeah.
Because we got to remember, they did start. We get to see some early footage of the Raëlians when they were first going to the first initial site where Raël was contacted by Yahweh Elohim. Mm-hmm. And they all look like hippies. I mean, he almost does have a kind of a Manson look, but just everyone does, because they all got really shaggy hair and big beards.
As it was at the time, yeah.
Yes.
For sure. It definitely gives off those similar vibes. It has flags. I won't even necessarily call them red flags, but there are flags that go up that people are used to seeing and associating with cults and that kind of thing, where on the surface, it seems totally fine and well, but then the layers of control are subtle at first, and then you find yourself kind of entrenched and trapped. But this isn't like that.
Yeah, I think they're actually a reverse cult. I mean, I'm still not calling them a cult. I will call them a UFO religion.
Right.
Where the outside is super weird and almost off-putting when you're talking about aliens coming down and robot clones, and you can make sex bots on different planets and blue liquids, all this stuff. But then when you get inside, they're like, actually, we're helping people in Africa, and we're, preventing sexual diseases.
You're right. It is the reverse.
It's like, where are we going on the UFO? It's like, well, we're not doing that right now.
Yeah, it's like, well, the UFOs that was the gimmick, but now that you're here, we're actually pretty normal.
Yeah,
it is the opposite of what you expect in these kinds of groups.
Pick a bracelet, put it on. Everybody will know what you're down with. No one's going to judge.
If you don't
anything.
know, just pick a random one out of this bag, and you'll see which ones you like and which ones you don't like.
Or that might be one of the downfalls of this. We're like, oh boy, I found some things out as a real.
You want to go to a bracelet party?
A real soul search.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate about this group is that they, after all the research, I definitively will say that I don't think that they're a cult.
No, definitely
like
not.
you said, it's a religion based, it's not on theism, it's on UFOs, which, like you said, makes it sound silly. But when you get down to their actual core principles, who wouldn't agree with that, except for, I guess, ultra God-fearing types who think that sex is bad.
Yeah, and they do make an attempt in that documentary to find someone from Claude's past. I won't even say Raël. So they find a man who knew Raël when he was still Claude Vorlehan, and he expressed doubt about Raël's story, but he would not come out and say that he is a fraud. Probably because I think someone did try that before and got sued, and there's been a couple of cases of people trying to, defame Raël, and it's never actually stuck. And this whole thing, though, it concludes with Raël's 69th birthday celebration. And wow, this was a great insight into what really goes on, because the women were on full display for Raël. And I never said anything, but this was one of the more cultish parts, because they choose this for themselves. I know that. Even there was 4 girls dressed as French maids in this. I know they probably they chose to be there.
Well, because this was in Japan, right?
Yes, this was definitely in Japan. And this part...
They like the maid thing, yeah.
This seemed like a huge flex from Raël. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. I mean, but you can't blame him. It's your 69th birthday. It's like, first of all, that number, great. And then, the birthday being such a big celebration in how many cultures around the world. So I can totally see you'd want to go big on that. And that, honestly, I kind of feel like he didn't have much to do with the directing of it. It seemed very much like there were just entire groups of people who were like, no, we're planning this whole special thing. It's like, you sit there, you're going to have different acts of the show going
different
on.
Different women in different outfits or coming up the stage very slowly, handing him large bouquets of flowers. And he sat down. And of course, they do a Marilyn Monroe. Happy birthday to him. They keep cutting to 4 French maids too. There's 4 identical French maid outfit girls. I mean, every girl is just as suggestive as possible. I mean, it's just like like a Hugh Hefner dream right now.
Yeah, and I will say too, there is a very strong streak of idolization in Japanese culture where they really do embrace that. I mean, in America we do too. I mean, we have a whole show called American Idol. It's like, we're going to create somebody right now in front of you here's the next person you're going to idolize. And it's something that people sometimes do look for, unless there's people who idolize themselves, I'm sure. But I feel like it's just a very happy, nobody seemed to be there rolling their eyes okay, we have to give him his dues. They very much want to, they're into it.
And I know he's kind of controlling everything that the camera's probably seeing, but their faces, I'll say the people that love Raël really, really do seem to love him. And
you didn't see any forced smiles or just pain just below the surface. People seemed very chill and relaxed.
Yeah, shockingly. And so as far as now, Raël is still alive. He's now 75 years old. The Raëlian Movement is still very active. They still hold events and seminars all around the world. And on the internet, they're doing live events and meditations. You can find them on YouTube, too. The Raëlian Movement's there. He posted last month.
Oh, yeah.
Other than, that documentary from a few years ago and the whole cloning saga years ago, they've been relatively quiet, but they're always out there. Wait, hold on. Look over there. Try to check it out.
Oh.
Look at those little narrows.
That's okay. That's not a humanoid. That's
those are guys climbing up there.
Okay.
Right.
I know. I see them. I see.
Yes, they're
not.
Well, look. All right.
Because I know we're kind of on the edge here, so they're not fully, but we better shoo them out of here.
We know there's not a lot of people working out here. It's summer. This place is already short. And look, those guys are headed right for that humanoid gang. We got to stop this.
Oh, yeah, we know that's where they're at. They don't know where that's. Yeah, let's go. Let's cut them off.
Right, look, it's gonna be a bad look if something happens to some Turistos Zoneros on our watch. I'm not letting it happen. Let's set up for. Let's do the warning shot thing because it's gonna scare probably both of them off.
That makes sense. So I want to scare off the humanoids. I want to get their attention. All right, I guess plug your ears.
I'm gonna shoot too because I don't get to. Okay.
All right, watch where you're shooting.
All right, on your set, on your mark.
Go.
Fire.
All right, they're off. They're running away.
All of them. Yeah. They see the people, they see us waving.
Okay.
They're going to come over here, but that's fine. When they come over here, then we'll direct them off a safe route that's not going to go.
Let's head them off. Let's get them out of here. But before that, Mora, will the Raëlians, I got some questions. Will the Raëlians going to flourish in the future? Or is it going to end if Raël ever dies? Or can he die? Will he be cloned? What are your final thoughts on Raël and the movement?
I think that's probably one of his bigger concerns too. Okay, yeah, they're coming over here. He's probably scared that he's not going to get to transfer into another body at this time. Because I think if they were very certain of it, it'd be publicized a lot more. We'd be seeing actual, studies or something published. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, people forgot about cloning.
I do feel like the movement, I feel like the movement would and still is kind of flourishing. But yeah, I feel like once he passes, people are going to be like, okay, if even he couldn't, get another body and continue his immortality this way, there's not much hope for the rest of us.
And they'll be out there looking for fakers.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll at least keep on with the principles that we said that we do enjoy for them about people being free and just choosing to live life, designing their life to be as happy as possible because that's when the Elohim want to hang out with us is when we're happy.
Yeah, we got to get there, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I do find the story to be very much unbelievable, but I don't think that matters. Yeah. I think the concept of Raëlism are positive. They're peaceful. They're not oppressive, especially sexually. And they preach a form of afterlife that could be attainable. It just doesn't seem like it can really be an equal footing for followers as long as Raël is around. So
right,
at least if you're a male looking to advance, the inner circle is not for you. But one day it could all be very different. Maybe then I might consider joining or taking over. And look, all right. Hey, guys. Hi. Hola, Zonero. So we're getting a signl. Nice work this week, Mora. Let's wrap these guys up.
Not my cactus juice.
All right. Until next time. No. This way.
With infinity, we are one. With eternity, we are one with the sky. We are one with the stars. We are one with the ocean. And every animal. We are one with lotus. We are one with gems. And with Tadao. And with Komiko. We are one.
Zona del Silencio is underwritten by ZDS Inc., ZDS R&D, and the Zona del Silencio Media Outreach Department. If you have a case that requires research, we can be contacted through Zona del Silencio Podcast at gmail.com, at Zona del Podcast on Twitter, and Zona del Silencio on Instagram. ZDS. Research, observe, disseminate.